That's right, bro. We're on. Oh, mate, that's my bad. I should have known you wanted sugar. But
Sabotage me, man.
But to be fair, you never requested any sugar.
No, I didn't. In my mind, it just goes without saying.
Have you always had a sweet tooth?
My entire life, yeah, absolutely. Have you seen these things?
No, I haven't.
Can't help it, man. Can't.
What's your go-to when it comes to treats?
Chocolate chip cookies.
Why them specifically?
I don't know. Probably, as a kid, that was my dad's thing. My dad would, he'd go out and he'd always come back with some cookies, and
Good.
I'd always stay up waiting for him because I knew he was coming home with cookies.
Listen, when you're in camp, there's no way you're having cookies.
You see a fighter like in camp and they're mad and they're hangry and all that kind of stuff. Cookies kept me at peace. So I'd follow the regiment, do what I got to do, but at some point I either had to have some chocolate or I had to have a cookie, or I was imbalanced.
Shawn, do your 1,000 sit-ups. You can get your cookie later.
Yeah,
Done.
exactly. Exactly. And I told my dad that one time, he was a little mad, and I was like, I'm working it off. What do you want me to do?
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Welcome back, brother. Welcome back to Oz. You like it
Thank
here?
you. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I don't like missing trips to Australia, to say the least.
You coming from Vegas, I'm assuming? Yeah.
Yeah. Coming from Vegas. It's warm back home right now. The weather's beautiful. I was told I brought the sun with me. I say, hey, listen, man, goodness follows me everywhere.
I love that. Man, you were training with Jason Tatum a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
NBA superstar. And now you're here. Tell me about
that. He's making boxing a part of his off-season regimen. And he was coming through Vegas. And I don't know why they picked that specific time to try a boxing workout. And so someone that's affiliated with him, they, reached out, hey, all of the boxers, all the coaches, who can you put me with? And I'm going to say this funny thing. The call came to me, Shawn, you train people, right? Yeah, I'm training a couple guys. Jason Tatum? Yeah. Can you put him through a workout? Yeah, of course. Just take him through the fundamentals, the basics. You don't need anything crazy. I said, yeah, no problem. I got you. The guy says, I was going to call your dad, but your dad doesn't know how to treat people. You know how to treat people. You know how to, not make it too hard, but make it, fun and all those kinds of things. And I think that the gentleman knew that if I put him with Kenny Porter, he might not be able to walk. He might not be able to pick up his arms. Shawn's going to take it easy, and got a little gig working with Jason Tatum.
And how was it? How does he go?
I think
NBA players very long limb.
I told him, I said, you, because I kept telling him, hey, stay loose, relax, and then eventually he looks at me, he says, I feel relaxed. I said, the bottom line is you are a high elite athlete, and you have a high expectation for yourself. It's like you're coming into the boxing ring. There's so many different things that all have to move in sync at one time. You're not going to get it the first time, so just be easy on yourself.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. And I can relate to that because I move like a red robot. So, me and him are in the same boat, brother.
I don't know, man. I think it's a mental thing. Anyone who looks like a robot in the ring, it's because they're overthinking it. You just got to be relaxed and let it flow.
And you're wearing the Boston Celtics colors right now.
It's my favorite color. So.
Is it?
Yeah.
Are you a Celtic fan?
I'm a fan of Jason Tatum.
Okay, we'll take that. And is that your apparel? Is that your athleisure wear?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is my logo, all that good stuff. So, yeah.
Did you bring a spare?
The PorterweightMerch.com.
There it is. There it is. How long have you been in Australia for?
It's my longest trip here. I've been here, I think this might be my 7th trip here. It's definitely my sixth trip here.
Yeah.
Usually I'm here 3 days, leaving on the 4th. This time around I got a good 10 days here. So.
And of course you're here for the main event, Sunday 26.
Yeah.
Zerafa Spence.
This one's anticipated, man. Everyone's excited about this one.
Mate, as an Aussie, I think it's the biggest fight since Pacquiao and Horn. I have to say
here in
Australia. I think so. I believe so. I'll tell you why, and I'll explain why. I think just the storylines and what's at stake in this fight for both fighters, I think is really, really important. You have to break that down, which we will later in the show. But if either fighter lose, what happens to them?
Yeah.
And if either fighter wins, where do they take their career from here? There's just a lot at stake.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unknown with Spence as well. 3 years out of the game. Does he still have that punch? Does he still
like
have that resistance?
That's the missing part of boxing. You know, with every other sport, in my opinion, you get so much storytelling before it actually happens. Boxing, you get the storytelling on fight night, you know? So for these two guys, they can't hide their stories. Their stories are already out, and I think that that's really helped. I could understand how you would feel like this is bigger than Pacquiao and Horn once you dig into the story. And the great part about it is, again, you don't have to do too much digging in order to see it. The storyline to me is what sells this fight. And, you know, again, where do they stories go after that? 100%. After this, you know?
It's interesting, man.
Pretty awesome.
I know the fans are itching to get out there. And if you can't get out there, you can watch on Main Event or KO. And the best thing about it, you don't have to actually be a KO subscriber. So Sunday, 26, make sure you're tuning in. It's going to be a hell of a fight, man.
Yeah.
Back to you. You'll be commentating the event. Mm-hmm. You rather be in the ring or you're happy where you are?
I love where I'm at, man. I love it. I had started wearing suits, and I was in my closet that's literally full of suits. And I just thought to myself one day, if I could wear a suit every day, that'd be cool, you know? So I think I've come off that high, you know, thought of, I want to be in a suit every day, but being able to be ringside, wearing a suit, calling what I see, having the instinct to see what's going to happen, you know, just the whole nine, man. It's, for me, it's poetry.
Mate, you're great at it. I love it. I love hearing your analysis.
You.
I love having you on the sideline, seeing what you see and really tapping into that, which we will be doing today as well.
Yeah.
But you never get that itch. You never get that itch to get back in there.
I did when I first retired, right? And it really wasn't an itch. It was more so just one thing I would do when I would go to fights and I wasn't fighting, I would always just visualize myself, specifically Floyd Mayweather. If you don't know, a Floyd Mayweather fight, the energy, the intensity of the moment. I don't know if I've ever experienced, maybe my fight with Terence Crawford, maybe the fight with Errol Spence Jr. Those two fights, the fight with Keith Thurman too. The anticipation, the energy, the excitement, everything is at just this all-time high, right? So when I would go to Floyd fights and he would be walking out to the ring and stuff, I would just close my eyes, visualize myself in this moment. If you've never felt that moment before, how are you going to react to it? So I would always just visualize myself reacting to those moments. When I first retired, being in a stadium on fight night, I would have to tell myself, like, you're not doing this anymore. You know, like, come off of that, you know, feeling the energy. You're never going to feel that anymore. Don't worry about it, you know. But it's like I tell people, man, with everything that it takes to get to fight night, I can't do it anymore.
All right, well, how about this? If you were to have one rematch, one more rematch, who would it be? Listen, in my head, I've got three names.
Who are your three names?
Keith,
let me guess.
Keith, wait, I'll do them in 3, 2, 1.
Well, let me guess.
Oh, go.
So obviously, I know the first one's Keith.
Yeah.
I think that would be an amazing.
But it's not that one.
Yeah, it's. This is Kell Brook.
No.
But Keith Thurman is on the list, right?
He's on the list.
Okay, well, let me do let me do your list.
Go on then.
With Keith Thurman, it would definitely be Errol Spence Jr.
Yes.
And it's got to be Terence Crawford.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that those three, the one that would be, I think, have to be on the list is Kell Brook.
Yeah.
I think that's one that would have to be on the list. When I first retired and people were like, coming back, I was like, no. And if I did, it's only one person I'm coming back for. It was Terence Crawford, you know. But I think since then, I think if I had to have a rematch to answer your question, it would be Kell Brook.
Really?
I think the first fight was exciting for who we were at that point in time, right? I think if we were to come back and have a fight now, I think it would be, number one, the fight would be even better than it was back then, even though we're both at way past our prime. Again, we're talking about storyline and we're talking about, you know, everything that makes a fight night great. I think right now a fight with Kell Brook, not fighting Kell, but a fight with Kell with me will be better than any other rematch I could have.
Did you just plant a seed?
No.
I tried. You know what?
Love Kell.
To be totally honest with you, I would have thought you would have picked Spence. And I'll tell you why. Because as a fan watching you in that fight, and if you haven't watched it, go do yourself a favor, go watch it. You guys put on a show. It was an absolute dogfight. I thought you were a bit hard done by the result. You know, victory went to Spence. But yeah, I thought you were the more dominant fighter in that fight. And if anything, I thought maybe a draw, but
yeah,
I thought you were more physically dominant.
I'll explain it real quick, right? The fight with Keith Thurman, the fight with Errol Spence Jr., minimal mistakes, not very many. You know, the fight with Kell Brook, I mean, plenty, tons. I had to grow up. I still was relatively young. In the fight with Terence Crawford, you know, mistakes at the end of that fight that, you know, if I had an opportunity to change them, if I had an opportunity to do better, the fight with Kell Brook, the fight with Terence Crawford. That's why those fights come before the fight with Errol. You know, a fight that I was pretty much on top of my game a good 90% of the fight, you know. Looking back at that fight, I was like, what could I have done different?
Yeah.
You know, one moment when I wasn't holding the phone, my hands down, I get caught. You know, that moment doesn't happen. I walk out of there with at the least a draw. Yeah. And looking at every judge like, excuse my language, but what? You know,
a lot of fans thought that.
Yeah, and then you know the fight with Terence too. You know, bonehead mistakes at the end of that fight. You know, like lunging in at a sniper. Why would you say, hey, right here? You know. So those two fights definitely sit with me more than the others.
And a lot of that comes back to mindset, right? Have you reflected on those 100%. Fights and why was I doing that compared to this? Like,
yeah. That's why the fight with Kell Brook,
like emotion, right? Emotion goes behind a lot of things in fighting.
Oh man, yeah. I tell people all the time, the fight with Kell Brook, I mean, I literally was walking back to the locker room after the fight, in my mind, like my heart smiling because I knew every mistake that I had made, and I was like, I'll never do it again. You know, the fight with Terence was just, there were mental errors at the end of the fight. I think driven by that key word, emotion, in the moment, feeling like I had to do something. You know, I had to make. It was a fight that I was handling. Wasn't, you know, retrospect, was I actually winning? We don't know, but a fight that I was truly handling, and I was like, I got to do more. And I think just picked the wrong times. You know,
what makes Errol a good fighter in your eyes?
Errol, you know, I have a picture of Errol. I think he was maybe 17 or 18. This picture was taken in 2015. So. Wow. However old he was, but I was looking at that picture. No, I'm sorry, it was taken in 2011. That's when that picture was taken, right before he went to the 2012 games. And I was just looking at this young Errol Spence Jr. What makes him so good? He's always had this just simple baseline of being a good boxer. We bunch of professionals go out to the Olympic Training Center in 2011 to spar with the Olympic team. And he was the one fighter that anybody that got in the ring with him just simply had trouble. Simple. You know, he's just a good, straight up and down, basic fighter. Knows his marks, knows where he needs to be, knows where you're going to be, and just kind of like water, just makes his way through it, you know?
Is he just strong? Is he just fundamentally just sharp? Like he does not miss. He does all the basics right, and he'll do it over and over again, despite how fatigued he is actually in the ring.
You know what's funny is, as an amateur, that was him to a T. Just very fundamentally sound, fast, not unbelievably fast, strong-willed. You know, I think as he turned pro, started to kind of loosen up. That fundamental base that he had, kind of start to see some kinks in the armor, especially when he fought me. Obviously, we know how that fight with Terence Crawford went. So coming back, who is Errol Spence Jr. now? You know, coming back with Ronnie Shields. Who are you now? Are you that same very fundamentally sound boxer that knows great ones and twos, can put the three together, can block and dig in and break your opponents down? Or, you know, we're going to see a little more flash now. You know, what are we going to see on Fight Night? We don't know.
What do you think you're going to see?
I think we're going to see some wrinkles in the game. I think he's in the point in his career now where he's matured and he's not afraid to add wrinkles, right? So what I mean by that, right, is if he's always been this straight line fighter that just gets the job done and this is who I'm going to be no matter what, maybe it was the fight that they had with Terence Crawford, realizing that this is not going to get the job done against everybody. Number one, why did it take so long to get there? You know, you would have thought the fight that he had with me, I showed some holes. But when you win, winning sometimes masks you from the truth, you know. And that's why we always say that L stands for lessons. You can't ignore a loss, you know. You can ignore mistakes and wins, you know. So I think that he's going to come to the ring with some wrinkles. I think we're going to see him step around a little bit more. He usually controls the distance with his jab, and he's usually someone that like really pushes in. Don't be surprised if he's not pushing in like that. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to think it's because he might be afraid to get hit and things like that. Those are like the wrinkles of being a mature, seasoned fighter.
Do you think that kind of strategy will actually add to his game? Because the Fundora fight with Tszyu, very similar. Fundora just kept him away with the jab, kept him jabbing away. Spence will have a kind of similar game plan going to this fight, no?
Could be. You know, that broomstick isn't nearly as long as Fundora.
Of course.
Tim likes to keep you busy. So it could be a little challenging to try to stay behind your jab with a fighter that wants to be on top of you, you know? So, and that's why I think that step around is going to be essential, and I think it's going to be there, right? So if you go back and look at old Errol, he punches, he might move his head, but he's going to block, and he's going to just kind of train forward. You know, he's going to be a train going forward. When you got a fighter that wants to be aggressive, wants to sit right there in the pocket with you, stepping around forces that fighter to stop punching so that they can step around with you and then punch, you know. So those are like the key elements, how you contain and stabilize a fighter that likes to use his hands a lot.
It's very interesting because Tszyu and Spence are both pressure fighters. Would you agree? Like with your fight itself, it was a war of attrition.
Yeah.
For full 12 rounds. Yeah. Both of you guys going at it. I was like, it was exhausting watching it.
People were like, we want to see a rematch. I'm like, you want to see that again? Can't do it again. Can't do it again. Can't do it again.
What was your game plan going to the fight with Errol?
Using everything. I was a well-rounded fighter that could box and punch, right? A lot of fighters say, oh yeah, I'm a boxer puncher. I was a traditional boxer that could use a lot of speed, be in and be out, use the whole ring move, but I was also a puncher that could step forward, you know, go to the body, stay low, leave shots while still being aggressive. I was a true traditional boxer puncher, and I knew in that fight I couldn't just box, I couldn't just punch. I had to mix it all up and like mix it. You go and watch that fight. You never saw the same Shawn Porter for an entire round, you know? And to me, that was what I needed to do. I said before that fight, I was like, when I fight him, I'm going to have to use everything in order to beat him.
Make adjustments mid-fight as well.
Yeah. I don't think he's the same fighter that I fought, you know?
Of course not.
I think back then he was a little more predictable from a standpoint of you knew he was going to be right there. You knew if you turned, he was going to turn with you and try to force you to keep fighting. A lot of what we're going to see from Tim Tszyu, which is why styles make fights, man. This is going to be a clash of the ages for sure.
Why did he take so long out of the game to come back?
He says there was a love for the game that he didn't exactly have. And he said, you know, he took that love and he poured it into his kids, poured it into his family, poured it into his everyday life. And he says eventually he knew, like, eventually he would want to do it again. And he says he wasn't going to do it until that itch that you guys always ask me about. He knew that the itch was going to come.
Do you buy that? Because do you reckon Bud took a piece out of him in that fight?
That's 3 years, you know, a legitimate 3 years out of the ring. Do I buy that? Yes and no, right? I say yes because for me, I know how essential time off is in the ring. I've never gone through what he went through. And then there was a lot of things outside of the ring that he was taking himself through as well. So my answer is that was 3 years of healing. That wasn't 3 years of, eventually I want to fight again. I think that was 3 years of healing, which in a lot of ways could benefit a boxer.
Can it though? Isn't it a double-edged sword? Because if you're 3 years out of the game, It's like a car, man. You leave it in the garage for 3 years. There's going to be kinks, rust, dust.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to be moving as he once was.
Yeah.
So, like, he'd probably have this mindset, or I guess he'll have this imagination where he the way he fought against Bud and prior to that, he's not going to move as smoothly as he once did, right?
He's going to tell himself he does.
That's exactly
He's
right.
Tell himself he is, you know.
But isn't that a false...
The good thing,
illusion?
right? So you're right. This is a double-edged sword. We take 3 years off, but I call it game time action. You haven't had any game time action, and you think that you're going to get in the ring with what we could say is maybe a B- fighter now, maybe just a mid B fighter in Tim Tszyu. You're going to get in the ring with a mid B fighter and think that you're going to be this A fighter that you've always been. Absolutely not. But at the same time, Errol's talents and his style is not predicated upon what is essential for game time, right? What's essential for game time? Timing. What's essential for game time? Finding rhythm.
Sparring.
Those are things that you can find in sparring. But for a fighter that fights off of reflex, a fighter that fights off of this athleticism and talent, Roy Jones Jr. for an example. Roy couldn't take 3 years off and then come back. Those muscles aren't firing the way that they normally would on fight night. Errol, to his benefit, is not a high-paced, rhythm, talented fighter. He fights off of the basic 1-2s. You know what I mean? So when you can add, you don't forget how to add. He's not a fighter like myself I was in there multiplication and division and all these kinds of things. He was add and subtract. But just great at it, but add and subtract.
But just physically as well, though. Like, Tim's had two, if you want to call them, tune-up fights leading into this big fight now with Errol, where Errol hasn't. Like, what's he clinching on? Like, that gives him confidence that he's going to perform well into this fight. Like, does he go? You can't just think everything's going to work out for you because of the amazing career you had. Like, he's only had one loss, right?
Yeah.
That one loss definitely took a piece out of him because he's taken 3 years out of the game, and he can admit it or not. But I do feel like Buddy did something to his mental state. I do believe it.
This is going to sound bad. Boxing, the business of boxing, has enjoyed the fruits and labors of fighters being ignorant. Right? So what do I mean by that? Most fighters are too ignorant to really look and think, man, I've been out of the ring for 3 years. I'm not calling him stupid, not calling him ignorant. This is a bad word, but he's ignorant enough to ignore it, right? And in boxing, we have to ignore being hurt. We have to ignore bleeding. We have to ignore that round didn't go my way. We have to ignore I got knocked down. We have to be ignorant to those things. So you got Errol Spence Jr. that's coming over here reminding himself of everything that he's done, which makes him ignorant of who he could very well be now. And it could work for him.
Not to mention also he had a horrific car crash and an eye injury. Yeah. To add to the toll.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how much can you expect him to be the same, He's shown or showed wrinkles of Errol Spence Jr. when he fought Danny Garcia, Errol Spence Jr. when he fought Yordenis Ugas, but then we saw a very bad version of him the last time that we saw him, What do? Do we go based off of who you've been or who you last were?
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Well, you sat in between Tim and...
A lot of Americans are going based off of who he was.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of the fans or all the betting agencies, they're all leaning towards Errol as the favourite. But are they looking at his name and is that like almost a trap because of what he's done in the game that he deserves to be a favourite? But... man, like it's even soccer players, rugby league players, any professional sportsman in the world, if you have taken, 3 years, a year even, and haven't been put in the heat of the battle, there's going to be, like you said, wrinkles. There's going to be chinks. He's going to be exposed to something that he hasn't been exposed to for 3 years.
Right.
Where Tim, I feel like he's just, he's younger, but that's another kind of, I guess, denominator. Like, Errol's aging. Do you really like? I don't know. It's just there's so much at stake for both fighters as well. So who's gonna come with that dog? Like who's gonna fold first?
Yeah. If you
Like
guys
whose will be broken?
Podcast, we determined that Errol Spence Jr. has more dog than Tim Tszyu. How do you determine right? We just take a look at experiences in the past, right? So the first one that I pull on, my dad took Errol around the world. They went to Russia. Errol is 16 or 17 at that time. I think he's 17 or 18 at that time. He loses the first round to this Russian. And my dad felt like, Errol, you're a better boxer. My dad talking to Errol. Errol, you're a better boxer. Use your jab. Use your 1-2s and step around. You don't have to stand in there and bang with him. You bang that entire round. You don't have to do that. Errol says to my dad, nah, coach, I have to make him respect me. That was when you were 17, 18 years old and you have that kind of mindset. That's who you are, right? For Tim Tszyu, we don't have those kinds of stories to recount, right? So we look at a fight with him and in Fundora, the first fight that they had, and that blood that he went through the entire fight. He said, man, he showed a lot of grit there. He showed a lot of dog there. But at some point, you have to step up and be willing to do more. You have to be able to find what you need to do more. That's a part of the dog that most people don't think about or talk about. So if anything, you can say when the going gets tough, Errol has the mindset to do whatever it takes, and he's been able to figure it out before. With Tim, we can't say that.
With Tim in the Fundora 2 fight, I thought it wasn't him lacking the dog. I thought it was him. I thought his technical ability and his game plan exposed him.
Both times.
He came with the same game plan in that first fight, where Fundora came with a completely different game plan. He was ready for what Tim was going to present.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually was hoping that Tim would reach out to me because the amount of experience I have fighting guys that are 6-7 inches taller than me is just unreal, and I know the techniques, the way that you get in a ring with a 6 foot. I've been in the ring with 6'7" before. How you beat that kind of fighter, I have the techniques and things like that. And so, coming to the ring the second fight, I said they have to be much different than they were the first fight. Standing in front of Fundora and hitting him with the 1-2,
your punching bag,
like you did in the first fight, probably won't work the second fight. And then again, like you just said, he ends up becoming somewhat of a punching bag near the end of that fight.
From what you've seen in all the social media videos coming out of Errol training, are you impressed?
I haven't seen much of what he's been doing, but having the opportunity to interview him, I was impressed with how he sounded. And what I mean by that, for me, I can look past, I can see past your confidence. And I know you. I know you beyond the confident presentation that you have, right? And so underneath Errol and getting able to spend some time with him outside of the cameras, it was like, oh, wow, this dude's going to be ready. He's going to be ready. And I would say I'm impressed with him being able to make that comeback. The weight, take a look at the weight, right? The weights, they've had to alter the weight a good, definitely pounds. 2, maybe even 3 times. That's because he's taking so much time off. That body has morphed into what it is now, and he's
crazy.
He has to do whatever it takes to make 100. I think is it 160 or 161.
Can you Google that? What's the weight for the fight?
But whatever the case may be, you imagine the dude's probably losing 20, 30, 40 pounds after a 3-year comeback. To get all of that off in a healthy way, that says something about his determination. It says something about his commitment level. And those things show up in the ring on fight night.
160 pound.
Yeah,
you're
160.
Right. You're spot on.
Yeah.
Which is 72.6 kilogram.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, you guys do kilograms.
Yeah, kilograms. Oh, pounds, I'm doing all the maths in my head. I'm like, far out.
They do stones in England. I'm like...
You sat between Spence and Tim for the little face-off.
Yeah.
What did you feel?
Did you like it?
I loved it.
Yeah?
Loved it. But what did you feel sitting in between both of them?
it's a hard thing, right, to get fighters to call on the same energy they're gonna have the week of a fight, the same energy they're gonna have on a fight night.
It's a bit of animosity. I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly. And I was a little like, I was like, you know, how do you pull that energy now? And they have a moment before we do that where, you know, Tim is being respectful and Errol is passive aggressively being respectful, and Tim is just like, it's not where I come from. That's not how we do it. And I told Tim, I said, yeah, that's not how we do it either, but he's from Texas, and it's just a little bit different down there than it is, you know, most other places. They sit down and they have this energy that you could only have hoped for, right? They're looking in each other's eyes, and then there's the look aways because I don't want to feel this right now. You know what I mean? I wanna hold on to that energy because I want it to be there on fight night, you know? So it was interesting. It was interesting, and they kind of danced around a few questions, and they were direct with a few questions. I thought it was a pretty good moment for them right there.
Well, when they spoke, did you notice that they weren't speaking directly like what we are doing now? Whenever they would answer a question, they'll be answering it to you.
Yeah.
About the person, right?
It's funny enough. It's just one of those things where it's like, hey, I asked you the question, but you're supposed to be talking to him, you know? But to your point, it's like, I want to direct this to you because if I direct that over there, I might start really feeling some things, you know? They managed to keep it together. We cut, and there was this moment of like, they're like two humps on both their backs, and then Errol gave the respect that Tim was looking for earlier in the day, you know? So
how so?
He got Errol to smile. It's hard to get Errol to smile. And Tim was like, I'm not extending my hand again because I extended it before. He didn't say that, but it was like, all right, man, good luck. I'll see you later. And Errol, you know, he obliged, you know, with that smile, that look away, like, yeah, I'll see you later. You know what I mean? It was like
interesting.
Yeah, it was a good moment.
So Tim's respecting Errol. Is Errol respecting Tim?
Errol's definitely not respecting Tim. Errol, for a lot of reasons. And, I mean, to be honest with you,
because I don't understand why. So he did mention that he's heard Tim talking shit about him.
Yeah, if Tim hadn't lost twice to Fundora, if Tim hadn't had that fight go the way that it went with Murtazaliev, yeah, there'd be a little bit of respect there. Maybe not directly, but under the surface, there's a lot of respect there. You know, if anything, Tim has fought his way back to where he was. I asked Tim. Tim says that Errol's always been on the list.
Yes.
How long has Errol been on the list? Errol has been, on the list for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years now. Talk to Errol. Errol, you've been on that list for a good 4 or 5 years. Tim been on your list? Nah. He wasn't on my list till I started talking about coming back. There it is. So those fights that Tim had that was building him up to that point where he could start looking at Errol was still not looking at him, right? Errol goes away, and then Tim has a couple of losses. And so it kind of like brings him back to where he already was in Tim's mind. Hopefully that makes sense.
Or is this all on purpose, what Errol's doing to get Tim off his own game? Like, is he being like this? For example, like if you hate someone so much, right, and you go into that fight with pure hate, you're going to lash out and you're going to step out of the game plan once or twice because you're too emotional, right?
Yeah.
Is that what Errol is doing on purpose?
I don't know Errol to be that kind of guy.
Okay.
Errol's never been one to push buttons. I've had a couple of fighters intentionally try to push buttons, and I'm like, I don't have any buttons to push. Tim clearly has buttons to push,
Okay.
The funny thing is...
So it's not mind games.
But the funny thing is Errol's never really been one to push buttons, and so... It's funny, he could be mature now and like, I'm going to push these buttons because I know it's going to get under his skin and he's not going to be ready when fight night comes,
Because he needs to. He actually needs to have Tim off his game.
But again, does Errol know that? Errol's respectfully to Errol, but he's always been about him. What I mean by that, right? Danny Garcia. Yordenis Ugas. We'll use the Yordenis Ugas. A lot of people got used to me being this aggressive fighter that goes at everybody. You see me move around the ring for essentially 12 rounds against Yordenis Ugas. After the fight, there's all of these questions. Was Shawn afraid to fight? And did he actually win? And all these different questions. And my answer was, no, we thought that was what was going to get the job done. And that's what we did. We made an adjustment based off of who Errol was, or who Yordenis Ugas was. Errol was not making any adjustments based off of who you are. At least he wasn't. Again, being with Ronnie Shields now, being 36 now, there's some in that 3 years. I'm telling you, there's some jewels in that 3-year layoff for sure.
He's been sparring with Brian Mendoza, hasn't he? Is that right?
I heard that Brian Mendoza went down to spar with him.
Okay,
yeah.
so is that a way to adjust to what Tim brings? Because obviously Tim fighting Brian a few years back. Is he the perfect person to spar against?
That's a great question. Brian brings size. Brian brings the experience of fighting against Tim. So he had to prepare for Tim. So he, I know I can go in there and be Tim Tszyu for you, Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a good call for them to bring Brian Mendoza in. Again, a fighter that hasn't been sitting on his butt. Fighter that stays active, stays in shape. So, good work for Errol coming out here.
Let's dig in a bit about Tim. What do you like about him?
The one thing that I've always liked about Tim is his ambition, his drive. He fought Tony Harrison. I came over here when he fought Tony. And then there was like 2 or 3 other fights. He was supposed to fight Jermell Charlo. Fight kept falling out, and he kept fighting. And I was like, buddy, do you know the business here? You should sit still. Stop taking these risks. And he just kept showing up, and he showed up stronger, more mature every time he fought. The thing I love about about Tim, also the 2 fights that he's had before getting in the ring with Errol, he's ambitious, man. He's really going for what he wants.
And who does that remind you of? Yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and
you never shied away from a fight. You're one of the top dogs every single time. Man. That's what Tim does. You have to respect him for that.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a mindset that not very many fighters have nowadays. That's for sure.
And what about stylistically?
Stylistically,
does he have the game plan to beat Errol?
We sat and we talked, and he told me what the game plan was, and I was just like...
No, we didn't.
I said...
What, on live television in front of Errol?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Do you do that, though? Do you publicly tell everyone what you're going to do coming to a fight? Unless it was a bit of bait.
Tyson Fury did it. Fight 2 against Deontay Wilder. Everybody responded the way that you're responding. It was like, are you crazy? Or are you crazy enough to actually do that? Is it just, you leading them astray?
Yeah,
or you actually, and he actually ended up telling everybody what he was going to do. And when he was telling me, I'm thinking to myself like, no, that's terrible. Don't do that, But now that coming here on the flight, I was like, all right, one of the things is going to happen. He's going to walk across the ring and it's going to work, or he's going to walk across the ring and it's not going to last long. I mean, obviously those are like the 2, best case scenarios anyway. But, he's saying he wants to punch Errol in the mouth. And that's how Terence got the job done.
Interesting. Can I ask you, if you were to change up your trainer 3 times, does that do a lot to you technically? Does that give you a lot of head noise? Like, you were talking about before about being stiff when you go to fight because you're thinking too much. Mm-hmm. Could that do the same to him? I
think so. I think that's a tough part of this storyline for Tim. 3 trainers in like what, 2 years?
Not even, I think.
Yeah.
But do you agree? Do you agree that he made the right decision to move on from Igor, move on from Pedro Diaz, now with, of course,
you need time. You're going to Pedro Diaz. Number one, you got to understand that this guy, he may have made you feel comfortable in the week or 2 weeks or whatever it was that you trained with him, but now he has to understand, or should have understood, that there's got to be a year, 2, maybe even 3. My co-host and I, we're estimating that it takes 3 years for a new fighter and a new coach to really mesh and start having success together.
Synergy.
Yeah, especially if you're a fighter that lacks true experience. If I'm not mistaken, Tim has more professional experience than he does amateur experience. And when you've only had professional experience with one coach for a substantial amount of time, and most of those times were good times, again, when we're winning, it's masking us from the things that we need to work on, you know what I mean? So that's definitely a big scar for me. Again, when we speak to the game plan and you got Jeff Fennick in your corner, I like the mesh of this is my game plan. It fits who I am, and I got somebody who wants to do, so
lived and breathed it.
I do like the marriage between Jeff Fennick, Tim Tszyu, who Tim is, his abilities, along with what they have game plan to do.
What's your view on Pedro Diaz as a coach, if you don't mind me asking?
Don't know a lot about him, right? But I obviously know that he's a Cuban. He has a Cuban heritage or whatever, if you will. And those guys are all about boxing. They're all about stepping around. They're all about, using that speed and things of that nature. I don't know a lot about Pedro, but when I saw that Tim was going to train with them, I thought it was a good move because I thought that, if anything, again, not knowing Pedro, but I just thought when you look at the history of Cuban fighters, they're more known to be boxers. He's going to give Tim something that he definitely needs: the ability to actually move when you get hurt, the ability to control the space, not from being on top of your guy, but in other dynamics of the game. I thought that Pedro was going to add to who Tim was. Respectfully to Tim, it may have been hard for him to pick up.
Yeah.
It's one of those teaching the old dog new tricks kinds of things,
Do you get confidence from Tim's last two fights coming into this fight with Errol?
A little bit. I didn't like that he, had gotten a little banged up in his last one. He had a little cut on his eye. I feel like there's levels to this, right? When you're an A fighter, when you are a B fighter, the two fights that he had, those guys were clearly C-level fighters. I think one guy might have been undefeated.
Yes.
You can't really always read into the numbers. It was not this last fight that he had. It was the fight before that. The guy might have been like 16-0 or something like that.
Mendoza? Was it Mendoza?
No, it wasn't Mendoza. So it was I don't remember the guy's name. Yeah.
What was his last? Can you check again? Yeah. Tim Tszyu's last two fights, please.
But the point is, again, when someone's not on your level, you got to
Velasquez.
Yeah, what we call swimming without getting wet. Yeah, Vasquez, that was his name. Yeah, you got to swim without getting wet. And ahead of a fight with Errol, if I'm in your corner, I'm telling you, we get in here, we getting out of here without getting any injuries at all. I don't want to see a scratch in your face. I
don't think we spoke about the game plan. What Tim mentioned to you. Can you repeat what he said? What is his game plan? Do you remember?
I thought you didn't like it being on TV.
I don't. But like
I did. I kept it very basic, and I said, Tim says he's gonna go across the ring and punch Errol in the face, punch him in the mouth. And funny enough to that, they had that moment where they don't shake hands, and then I end up interviewing Tim, and so I'm gonna go over there and punch him in the mouth. That might have been because of the energy that they just.
Okay. All right, if you were in his corner, come fight night.
Yeah.
What advice are you giving him?
Well, listen, it's Jeff Fennick, right? Jeff is an aggressive guy, high energy guy. That's what they're gonna do on fight night. They're gonna try to have a high energy, high pace, punches and bunches. Because I know that, I'm telling Tim, you have to move your head after you punch. You have to step around and get off of the straight line. The straight line is the end of the punch. That's where Errol likes to fight traditionally. We step to the side. We take that away from him. This is how you fight smart and aggressive. Again, I was known as an intelligent, aggressive fighter. That's what I would tell him. You got to get offline after you punch. You got to move your head after you punch. Sometimes that may sound a little basic and more simplistic, but again, with the fighter that's always been known for just straight punches, straight ones and twos, getting to your body, but really no pizzazz to what he's got going on. He's just a lot, and coming very strong is Errol. you know?
Not only that, I feel Errol will set traps. And can Tim adjust to that? Like, I feel like Errol can exploit Tim in that sense. Did you feel that when you fought Errol?
I felt like both guys could exploit one another. You know, I definitely felt that when I got in the ring with Errol. And I was like, we're going to beat him to the steps. Again, I felt like I caught Errol at the best time in his career. I felt like he was just immature enough for me to be who I was, and he would be a step behind me. And the majority of that fight he was, you know.
Is punch resistance a thing?
100%.
3 years, long time.
100%. For both guys, though. For both guys. You know, you got one guy who hasn't been pounded on in 3 years, and then you got another guy who has been, you know, so
there's scar tissue, a lot of scar tissue.
Both guys. Both guys, you know, and again, we're talking about scar tissue, but what about for the sake of words, trauma, you know what I mean? The you know, when that punch comes that I didn't see, you know, what does it remind me of? What goes through my mind, you know what I mean? This is what I know. Right, and I'm like kind of just breaking this down right now. When a fighter reacts incorrectly to a punch that they would not have in the past, I've told people before. They say, "Does it hurt?" I don't know. I don't got time to realize whether or not it hurts. The only thing I have time to calculate is what punch was it, and don't get hit with it again.
Yeah.
Once you start staying in those moments, that's when you start getting hurt. Right, so that's what I would say is the trauma of getting hit with that one punch that I didn't see, and now I'm fixated on I didn't see that. You know, all those kinds of. When you have a mind in the boxing ring that's occupied, it's a problem.
Because looking back at Errol's last few fights, the last one in particular with Terence, that was the first time he ever dropped in a fight.
Yeah.
The first time.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Don't know if he had ever been dropped as an amateur. I don't know.
Well, professional.
Yeah, I don't know. But what I do know, if he got dropped as an amateur, there was no crowd as big as that crowd was on Fight Night against Terence Crawford. That is intimidating. I've had to experience it, unfortunately. It is an intimidating feeling when you're used to people screaming for you and now they're rooting against you.
Did you? Speaking of Terence, he's going to be in the country in the next few days as well.
Yeah, you're stalking him too, huh?
Yeah, 100%, brother. Hey, maybe he'd come on the show. You never know.
We'll see.
Get you both
Good
on.
luck.
Get you both on.
Let's say how much you pay him.
Yeah. Did he reach his prime years after 30? Do you find?
Who was that? Terence or Errol?
Terence.
I think he matured right on time. I think everything happened for him right on time. And that's me. That's me. I'm a man. I'm all about timing. I think that it was unfortunate, perfect timing for him. It was unfortunate that he got some of the fights that he got a little later in his career, but it was perfect timing for him because, you know, you're in a position where you beat me and I'm like the last of the Mohicans because everybody else has either been beat down and, you know, everybody's practically moved out of the way, and the one fight that everybody's been wanting for a good 3, 4, 5 years, they finally get, and it sparked the way that it did for him. You know, it looks as if he hit his prime later, or
yeah, it does.
You know, whatever. Yeah. But I think he had primed before that, and we just didn't see it.
I asked you about what you'd be telling Tim on Fight Night. What about Errol? If you're in his corner, what are you gonna be telling him?
A lot of what I said earlier in this conversation, both these guys, they have very similar styles.
Yeah.
This is going to be a really good boxing match. It's going to be good to see what wrinkles they actually come into the ring with. I don't think either of them are going to come into the ring and be who they've always been. If I had to bet who would, I would bet Errol. That said, I'm probably sound like a broken instrument, but I'm singing the same music. You know, you got to get off the line after you punch. You got to step around. You got to force this Aussie guy to pick up his feet and move him, you know?
So if Tim beats Errol, would it be the biggest upset?
It would be an upset. If it just hadn't been a 3-year layoff, I think it would be a bigger upset than it would be. Yeah.
Well, that's the tough thing about it, because if Tim wins, the narrative will be, you beat a, no disrespect, a washed up fighter. Yeah. That's what they'll be saying.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. What do we call it? Like risk to reward.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
It's kind of the risk to reward factor. It's not much risk, I think, for either guy. again, like what do they do after this fight? Win, lose, what do you do after this fight? There's nothing but monsters ahead of you, you know? So it's like, what do you do? You know, and then in this moment against one another, will the love and shine be credited to either of them as much as it should be? In my opinion, I think there's more risk for Tim than there is for Errol, because Errol has been on a 3-year layoff. Errol looked terrible his last time out, you know? Tim's quietly picked up 2 wins. Didn't look too good his last fight in America, but he went out on his shield, as they like to say. I think Tim has more risk here than Errol.
What is the risk
for Tim? You know, funny to that question. I think pride is the number one risk. His man has tried to go to America a couple of times. It really didn't work out for him. It's unfortunate, but now you're here on your own home turf, and this, if anywhere, is the only place you could really definitely count on people to show up to watch you box. You lose this fight here, you lose your pride, you lose, I'm sure Tim is more than likely going to lose his integrity, his will to fight, and the list kind of goes on from there. This is a big risk for Tim.
If Tim does lose, can the Phoenix rise from the ashes again?
I think this is the last one. Yeah.
What about Errol?
You know,
because you said he lost the love from that. He lost the love of boxing from that last fight.
Yeah.
If he loses again, does he lose it again?
Yeah, I'm willing to bet he does. Yeah. I'm willing to bet.
So it's all or nothing for both fighters.
Tim, yeah, both guys, man. You know, Errol has
all the chips. The chips are in.
Errol's got a lot of pride too. Yeah, I mean, this is a hell of a fight. And when you talk about all of the chips
I can feel it in here. Can you imagine a fight when the day comes?
If you have not played poker with a lot of money that you just did not want to see go away, that's what's happening here.
What they're doing is essentially putting their house on the line.
Yeah.
Their livelihood.
Yeah.
They lose, they're on the streets.
Yeah. Yeah. Michael Zerafa, the last time I was here.
Yes.
I said, this dude is not going to be able to walk down the street. What are you doing? Like, this is the worst thing you could have ever done. And I was like, I tried to keep up with Australia when I went home. I tried to keep up for a little while. Like, hey, is the kid still, you know, is he safe? Is he in the hospital yet? It looked really, really bad. But I'm only saying that to say, if Tim should lose here, like, you know, what's his everyday life become? You know, I feel like the Aussie fans have a pride that they would extend to him love and appreciation for what he tried to do. But if he loses, his life and his career is just not going to be what he dreamt it to be so many years ago when he decided to turn pro.
Zerafa signed with Matchroom Boxing, you say that?
No. Why?
Well, he signed you sound surprised.
I like Michael Zerafa. But that moment was a terrible moment.
Stain.
And it was the kind of moment that when I said why, I wasn't even talking about why did Michael sign with Matchroom? Why did Matchroom sign Zerafa? You know? Like, why would you sign someone that could put his country through something like that? That was bad, man.
Well, was it the lie that was bad? It was the lie itself, not the fact that...
What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah,
How do we break it down?
He poured gasoline on the fire when he lied, right? So, like, you know what I mean? Because end of the day...
Shit was in flames, though.
The whole building was. Who burnt alive in there?
Listen, people ran down and they started pulling on the gates, and I was like, this is a boxing match. Calm down. You know what I mean?
People wanted blood. That night.
Yeah.
Because, like, end of the day... like
somebody... boom, 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 and ripped it off. And I was like, did he just want to prove to himself that he could rip it off? Because he ripped it off and then just slowly sauntered away. And I was like, why? You know? That was a sight.
That was a crazy night. Yeah. That was a crazy night.
But boxing in Australia, boxing. I'll tell you what, man. I first time I boxed against Australia at 16. And they were very simplistic guys, man. They, you know... not a lot of rhyme, not a lot of reason, and you're in and out. Bye, we'll see you later, go home. That kind of, you know, it's grown. it's grown on me. I'm looking at these fighters now. What's the one, the young kid, Sam Goodman?
Yep.
There's
Paro.
there's a lot of guys over here now. Obviously, the one fighter fighting at cruiserweight, is it?
Joe Pataia, surely.
Pataia, Pataia. You know, he's Australian, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's changed, it's molded, it's much different than it has been, you know, since I was a kid, since I was younger.
What's the difference between American and Australian fans?
The fans?
Yeah, itself.
I like you guys
Why?
over there, man.
Why,
You guys. Man? I think American fans are harder to please. Their expectation is just like off the charts, you know.
We do appreciate a good event.
Y'all appreciate a good event. Like, come on, like, can we just appreciate the night? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, Americans, like, they just want more, and just, you know, whatever was missing, you know, in that night, it was like, well, we didn't get. I was like, well, damn, it was still a good night. Yeah, but, you know, well, over here it's like, man, a good night's a great night over here.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I want to come back.
For the whoever's crowned victor on Sunday.
Yeah.
Who's next?
That's a great question.
Who do you think?
That's a great question. I'm really not sure. Neither of these guys are gatekeeper type boxers. You got the three big guys up top, which would be Fundora, would be Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, and I think there's a small little medium between where these two guys are at and where those three guys are at. There's a medium in between there that both these guys can go on and do some things. You know, you're not talking about Brian Mendoza, but you're talking about guys on that level. Both these guys can beat guys that are on that level, you know. And again, for the Australian fans, you guys just want to see a great fight.
For sure.
You guys don't need the two biggest names in the world in order for a great night to happen. In America, if it ain't a big name, it's like, all right, we'll catch them on the next one, you know?
Is it going to be a dog fight or chess match?
I think it's going to be a dog fight.
Yes.
I think it's going to be a dog fight. Coming over here, man, I really thought this is Errol Spence. This is experience. This is, you know. But the more I think about it, I'm just like, Tim could punch him, and he just can't respond. There's some hope for you.
So your prediction is Errol?
It was.
Sorry? You can't wait.
It was.
10 minutes ago, you said Errol was going to win.
Yeah, but what did I just say?
Now you're thinking Tim.
I don't know.
You're swaying. I swayed you. Have I swayed you?
I swayed me. I swayed me on the way here. I swayed.
All right.
I was sleeping. I was like,
so
you could punch him. What if he punches him? And it's like, funny thing about it, it's like, well, that's what happens in boxing. They get punched.
Exactly.
And I was like, but then I was like, that punch resistance may not be there. You know what I mean? You're asking if this is going to be a dogfight or a chess match. I truly think this is going to become either you get me or I get you. This fight's not going the distance. That's the most I could predict about this fight.
It's not going the distance.
It's not going the distance.
You know what? I'm going to agree with you. I agree with you.
If somehow it went the distance, it would be like a Castillo and Corrales, like where these guys are bashing each other. Yeah. And, you know, it's like kind of scary near the end, you know?
Give me a round. Where's it stop? 5 or 6?
7.
Ooh, 7. That's just a wild guess.
How do you come up with, like, you know,
no.
I hate when people are like, you know, there's an arrow in 7. Like, what needed to happen in the first 6 rounds for you to know that the 7th round it was gonna? I don't know, man. I don't know.
Tim in 7?
I tell you what, man. This fight has the element that people love about boxing. There's this element of surprise. This element of I just don't know, and I have to see. Order it on KO.
Or main event. What's your commitments for the rest of the week, brother?
Not being with you.
Why not? we had a great handshake last time.
Because I know I'm going to see you like 3 or 4 more times. I'm like, he's definitely stalking me.
But you know what? Look at the synergy we got between us.
I got nothing going on, at least to the best of my knowledge. talk to Darren if you want to know where I'm at.
Well, I'll try DMing you on Instagram. If you respond, you respond. If you don't,
right.
I feel like you need a lot of energy for me. So.
You're my guy, so I'm sure I'll see you again and I'll enjoy it.
Likewise, brother.
Yeah.
Shawn, Showtime Porter, brother. Pleasure to have you, man.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so much for your time.
You got it.
Enjoy Sunday, my man.
Yeah, good.